Eli Mercer was used to cold weather. As a park ranger in the Canadian Rockies, he had seen many snowstorms and frozen lakes, but nothing like this. It was late afternoon when Eli heard a strange noise while walking along the snowy trail near his ranger station. It sounded like a crash, a loud, sharp sound that broke the quiet of the winter forest. He stopped and looked around. Snowflakes fell softly from the gray sky. The wind was cold and strong. Eli knew he had to check it out. He grabbed his radio and called for backup, but no one answered. He was alone. Carefully, he walked toward the sound. The snow was deep, almost up to his knees. His boots left heavy prints behind him. When Eli reached the crash site, he saw something he did not expect. A small metal ship lay broken on the snow. It was not like any plane or helicopter he had seen before. The shape was smooth and round, like a large egg with wings. The metal was scratched and bent. Smoke rose slowly from a crack in the hull. Eli's heart beat faster. He moved closer, but also more carefully. The ship was strange, but it was not burning badly. Something must be inside. Suddenly, a voice came from the ship. It was weak, trembling, and in broken English. "Human, I'm freezed. Get me to your bed now, please." Eli stopped. The voice was strange and soft. It did not sound like any human he had heard. He looked around, but saw no one. Then he noticed a small door on the ship's side. It was open a little, and a thin arm reached out. Eli helped the arm to come out. Soon, a woman appeared. She was not like any woman Eli had ever met. Her skin was pale blue, almost glowing under the cold light. Her eyes were large and dark, full of fear and pain. Her hair was white and stuck to her face from the cold. The woman shivered violently. Eli quickly took off his jacket and wrapped it around her thin shoulders. "Are you okay?" Eli asked softly. She tried to speak again, but her lips were too cold to move well. "Frozen. Need warm. Please." Eli nodded. "I understand. Let's get you somewhere warm." He carefully helped her out of the snow and started walking back toward his ranger station. The woman's body was cold and stiff. Her hands were numb. As they moved, Eli asked, "What happened? Where are you from?" The woman tried to answer, but her voice was weak. She said one word clearly: "Exile." Eli did not know what it meant, but he felt it was important. When they reached the station, Eli closed the door behind them and turned on the heater. Warm air filled the room quickly. The woman's shivers slowed. Eli gave her a blanket and some warm water. She drank carefully, looking at him with tired eyes. "Thank you," she said, her voice soft and strange. "Name?" "Vela." "I'm Eli," he replied with a smile. "You are safe now, Vela." Vela nodded weakly, but her eyes showed worry. "Your ship broken?" Eli asked. The quiet hum of the Dauntless Arrow felt different now. The ship had returned from Dock 9, and the tension that once filled the halls had softened. But in Jace Miles's heart, a new determination burned brighter than ever. Kiva had been released from custody, thanks to the captain's decision. Her bravery during the virus attack had proven her loyalty, not just to Jace but to the whole crew. Slowly, the crew began to see her as more than just an alien stranger. She was one of them. Jace returned to his cabin after a long day of repairs. The cold air of space seemed less biting now because inside something was warm and waiting. Kiva was curled up in the corner, her amber eyes glowing softly in the dim light. Her fur shimmered gently, casting a comforting glow across the small room. "Hey," Jace said quietly, closing the door behind him. He smiled as he sat on the edge of his bed. "I was starting to think you'd fallen asleep already." Kiva lifted her head and stretched, then padded over to him. She sat beside the bed and looked up. "I waited for you." Jace reached out and gently scratched behind her ears. "You kept your promise, didn't you?" Kiva's eyes sparkled. "I always keep my promises." The ship's small heater hummed softly, but it was Kiva's warmth that made the biggest difference. Jace felt it in the quiet moments, the steady rhythm of her breathing, the soft weight of her body against his. He lay down and patted the empty side of his bed. "Come on. Let's get some rest." Kiva smiled and hopped up beside him, curling close. The warmth spread through the bed, chasing away the chill of space. As Jace closed his eyes, he thought about everything that had happened, from finding Kiva starving and alone, to fighting viruses and facing danger together. It wasn't just survival anymore. It was something more. Trust. Friendship. Maybe even family. In the days that followed, life aboard the dauntless Arrow changed. Kiva became part of the crew's daily rhythm. She helped with repairs, using her sharp senses to detect problems before they grew. She stood guard during shifts, alert and ready. Even Officer Trent, once wary and cold, began to soften. He caught Kiva watching over Jace during a long repair and nodded quietly. It was a small gesture, but it meant a lot. One evening, Jace and Kiva sat together in the observation deck, looking out at the endless stars. "Do you think we'll find a new home for your people someday?" Jace asked. Kiva's eyes reflected the distant lights. "I hope so. But for now, this ship is my home. With you." Jace smiled. "You're stuck with me." Kiva laughed softly, a sound like bells ringing in the quiet room. "Human," she said. "Thank you. For saving me. For trusting me." Jace reached out, taking her hand in his. "Thank you for staying." Outside the ship, space was vast and cold, but inside the dauntless Arrow, a small corner was warm and full of hope. And every night when Jace climbed into his bed, Kiva was there, warming the bed, guarding the night, and keeping their bond alive. Because sometimes the greatest strength comes from the simplest things: a promise kept, a hand held, and a bed that is always warm. She looked away and whispered, "Yes, and crash. No power, no home." Eli felt a cold wave inside, but he hid it well. He wanted to help her. "Do you need a doctor?" Eli asked. Bela shook her head. "No doctor, just warm. Sleep." Eli understood. "Okay, you can rest here as long as you need." He watched her as she slowly closed her eyes. Her breathing became calm. Outside, the snow continued to fall softly. The mountains stood tall and silent, like old guardians watching over them. Eli sat down near the fire, thinking about what had just happened. He asked himself many questions. Who was Vela? What kind of place did she come from? Why was she here, alone and frozen in the cold? But for now he knew one thing clearly. He had to keep her safe. The night grew colder, but inside the ranger station, there was a small light of hope. The next morning, sunlight peeked through the small windows of the ranger station. The cold outside still ruled the mountains, but inside, the air was warm and comfortable. Eli sat at the table, watching Vela carefully. She had not moved much during the night. Her pale blue skin looked a little better, but she still seemed weak. Her large dark eyes opened slowly, and she looked around, confused. "Good morning, Vela," Eli said gently. "You are safe here. How do you feel?" Vela tried to speak, but her voice was soft and slow, still cold. Eli nodded. "I will get you something warmer." He stood up and went to a small cabinet. He brought out a thick wool sweater and some blankets. He helped Vela put on the sweater. "This will keep you warm." Vela looked at him with a small smile. "Thank you, human Eli." Eli smiled back. "Call me Eli, please." Vela's face showed a hint of relief. "Eli." She repeated the name like it was new and strange. Eli sat down again and asked, "Can you tell me more about yourself? Where do you come from?" Vela looked down. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Home. Far away. Not Earth?" Eli nodded. "I guessed." Your ship is not like anything we have. Yes, she said. Clan Theraxis, my people. Eli frowned. Clan Theraxis? The name sounded strange, but he was curious. Are they friends? Vela shook her head sadly. No. Exiled. I did not follow their war. They sent me away. Eli's heart felt heavy. You mean they punished you? She looked away and whispered, Yes. Eli wanted to understand more, but Vela looked tired. He decided to change the subject. Do you need food? He asked. Vela nodded. Yes, please. Eli got some simple food from his supplies, bread, cheese, and fruit. Vela ate slowly, but with growing energy. After she ate, Eli helped her up. Let's get some fresh air. You need to move a little. Outside, the wind blew cold, but the sun was shining. Eli took Vela to a small path near the station. The snow was thick and deep. Vela looked at the forest with wide eyes. Earth, beautiful. Eli smiled. Yes, it is, but it can be dangerous too. Vela nodded, watching the trees. Then she turned to Eli. Your body, warm. Strange for me. Eli raised his eyebrows. Strange? How? My people, from warm stars. Cold hurts us. Your heat keeps me alive. Eli was surprised. So you can't handle cold like we do? No. She shivered slightly. Freeze means pain. Death. Eli thought about the long nights he had spent outside, wrapped in thick clothes and fire. That must be very hard for you. Vela smiled weakly. Yes, but I survive. Eli's radio crackled suddenly. Eli, this is Base. Any sign of the crash site? Eli answered. Base, this is Eli. I found a survivor. She is with me. Strange being, but alive. Copy that, Eli. Keep her safe. We're sending help. Eli looked at Vela. They will come soon. Vela nodded. Good. As they walked back to the station, Eli noticed that Vela was watching the sky carefully. Do you want to go home? He asked. She looked at him. I want freedom, not war. Eli smiled. I think Earth can be free, but it is not easy. Vela's eyes brightened. Teach me. Eli laughed softly. I will. Inside the station, Eli started fixing some equipment. He wanted to help Vela communicate better. Her small device was broken, and she struggled to speak Earth languages. Vela watched him work, her eyes curious. Your people, many languages? Yes, many, Eli said. We learn fast. Vela smiled. Good, I want to learn. Eli felt hope. Maybe this strange visitor could become a friend. But outside, the cold wind howled louder. The forest was silent, watching the small light of the ranger station. Something was changing and not all was safe. Eli did not know that soon, their quiet life would face new challenges. Challenges that would test both human strength and Vela's courage. For now, they had only a warm fire, cold snow, and the first steps of an unlikely friendship. Days passed quietly in the cold mountains. The snow kept falling, and the wind whispered through the tall pines. Inside the small ranger station, Eli and Vela slowly built a new kind of life together. Vela was still weak, but each day she grew stronger. She learned to speak a few new words, and Eli did his best to teach her about Earth. In return, Vela shared stories about her home, the distant world of Clan Theraxis, a place where the cold was deadly and war was common. One evening, after dinner, Vela sat by the fire, her pale blue skin glowing softly in the warm light. She looked thoughtful. Eli, she said carefully, I did not choose exile. My people want war. I want peace. Eli nodded, understanding her pain. Sometimes, standing for peace is the hardest choice. Vela looked at him gratefully. Thank you for helping me. You're kind. Eli smiled. You're not alone now. We will find a way to fix your ship. Then you can decide what you want to do. The next day, Eli contacted an old friend. Dr. Clara Mendez was a retired scientist who once worked for SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. She owed Eli a favor from years ago, and Eli hoped she could help with Vela's strange technology. Clara arrived in her small SUV bringing a box of equipment. When she saw Vela, she was amazed. "This is incredible," Clara said quietly. "Your ship's technology is far beyond anything we know." Vela watched Clara carefully as she opened the box and began to examine the alien device Vela had carried from her ship. The small communicator was cracked and its screen flickered. "We might be able to fix this," Clara said with hope. "If we can get it working, maybe we can contact someone from your world." Vela's eyes brightened. "Please, I want to talk with my people." Eli watched them work, feeling hopeful but also worried. What if Vela's people were dangerous? What if they came to take her back by force? That night, Eli sat by the fire, while Vela looked at the stars through the window. "Do you miss your home?" Eli asked. Vela sighed. "Yes, but Earth is different. It feels free." Eli smiled. "Earth is not perfect, but people here fight for what they believe in." Vela looked thoughtful. "Your warmth saved me. Your kindness too. Maybe. Earth is my new home." Eli felt a warm glow inside. He had never thought much about visitors from other worlds before, but now he could not imagine letting Vela go. Over the next few days, Clara worked on the communicator. Slowly it began to respond. Strange symbols and images appeared on the screen. "Look," Clara said excitedly. "This is a message coming through." Vela stepped forward, her face shining with hope. "My people." But the message was not what they expected. The images showed soldiers, warships, and scenes of destruction. A cold voice spoke in a language they could not understand. Vela's face darkened. "They want me to return. They want me to fight." Eli placed a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to go back if you don't want to." Vela shook her head. "I cannot run forever, but maybe I can find a new way." Eli nodded. "We'll figure it out together." The mountains outside remained silent and cold, but inside the small station a new plan was forming. Eli, Vela, and Clara would try to find help. Others who understood both worlds and could protect Vela from those who wanted to use her. As Vela rested that night, she dreamed of stars and freedom, of battles fought and peace won. And Eli watched over her, ready to stand beside this stranger from the stars no matter what came next. The cold mountain air was sharp, but inside the small ranger station, things were growing tense. Since Vela's arrival, Eli had been careful to keep her hidden, but word was beginning to spread. Strange signals detected by nearby satellites had drawn attention. One evening, as the sun set behind the snowy peaks, Eli heard the distant sound of helicopters. His heart beat faster. He looked out the window and saw bright lights cutting through the dark forest. "They're coming," he whispered. Vela sat quietly by the fire, unaware of the approaching danger. Eli gently touched her arm. "We have visitors. You must stay hidden." Vela nodded, fear showing in her large dark eyes. Moments later, the door burst open. A team of men in black uniforms entered, their faces serious and sharp. "Ranger Mercer?" the leader asked. "We have reports of unusual activity here. We need to see what's going on." Eli stood firm. "This is a protected area." "What kind of activity?" The leader ignored him and began searching the station. Vela watched nervously from behind a curtain. Suddenly, one soldier found a strange device on the table, the communicator Clara had repaired. "What is this?" he asked, holding it up. In the cramped corridors, Kiva's eyes glowed softly. She sniffed the air, then stopped near a ventilation grate. Her ears twitched, and she pointed with a small hand. "Problem here," she said simply. Jace opened the grate and saw a crack leaking air. Without hesitation, Kiva reached inside with nimble fingers and began to work with surprising skill. Jace helped her, amazed at how quickly she fixed the leak. "You know your way around technology?" he asked. Kiva smiled. We learn many things to survive. When the repair was done, Jace felt a new respect for this strange visitor. She was not just a burden, she was a friend. And maybe, just maybe, she was more than that. Back in his cabin, Kiva curled up beside him. The temperature dropped suddenly, and Jace was about to close the door when she looked up with a soft voice. Cold, she said. Jace turned off the cooling system in his room and wrapped a blanket around both of them. Kiva's fur was warm against his skin, and for the first time in a long time, Jace felt comforted. Guess you'll really keep me warm, huh? He joked quietly. Kiva's eyes sparkled with a gentle glow. I promise. Human, you saved me. I will stay with you, always. Jace looked out the small window at the stars beyond. Space was vast and lonely, but inside this small ship a new story was beginning. One of trust, hope, and maybe even friendship between two very different beings. The small cabin felt quiet and safe. Jace sat at the tiny table, stirring a thin soup made from his limited supplies. Kiva sat across from him, her amber eyes watching every movement. She had eaten well and looked stronger, but there was still something fragile about her. Jace smiled softly. Here, try this. It's nothing fancy, but it should help. He offered her a spoon. Kiva took it carefully, tasting the warm broth. Good, she said quietly, then looked up at him. Thank you, human. Jace nodded. You're welcome, but I want to know more about you, about your people. Why were you alone out there? Kiva's gaze turned distant, as if she were remembering something painful. The Yllari were once many, she began. We lived on a green world full of forests and rivers. We were hunters and healers living with nature. But then came the Empire. Jace leaned forward. The Empire? What kind of empire? It was cruel, Kiva said simply. They took our homes, our freedom. They made us slaves. My people fought back, but many were captured or lost. I was lucky to escape when their control broke. Jace felt a knot in his stomach. I'm sorry, you had to go through that. Kiva gave a small smile. It is past. Now I live because of you. Eli stepped forward. It belongs to a visitor. She's injured and needs help. The soldiers exchanged looks. The leader said, We're taking control of this site. Please cooperate. Eli felt trapped, but knew he could not fight them alone. He nodded slowly. Vela stepped out from her hiding place. Please, she said softly. I mean no harm. The soldiers stared in shock. Vela's pale blue skin and large eyes were unlike anything they had seen. The leader raised his hand. Stay calm. We need to ask some questions. Vela's voice trembled. I am lost. I want peace. The soldiers took her carefully, placing her under watch. Eli followed, his heart heavy. In a small, secure lab, Vela was studied closely. Scientists and military officers were curious but cautious. They asked many questions, but Vela could only say a few words clearly. Eli stood outside the lab, waiting and worrying. He knew Vela was not a threat. She was a survivor, like him. Suddenly, Vela's communicator flickered. A new message appeared. This time, from a distant observer species. The message was simple but clear. Humanity shows promise. Monitor closely. Eli did not understand the full meaning, but it gave him hope. Back in the lab, Vela looked out the window, her eyes filled with sadness. Eli, she said quietly when he came to see her. I did not want this, I just want freedom. Eli reached for her hand. We'll find a way. Earth is not perfect, but it can be a place of hope. Outside, the cold wind blew through the trees, carrying the silent watch of the stars above. Vela's fate was uncertain, but for the first time, she felt she was not alone. The cold laboratory was quiet except for the low hum of machines. Vela sat on a small metal bench, her eyes tired but alert. The soldiers and scientists around her whispered and studied her carefully. She felt trapped and alone, far from the snowy mountains she had briefly called home. Eli paced outside the lab, his mind racing. He knew the military wanted to learn everything they could from Vela's technology. They were curious, but their curiosity could turn dangerous. He needed a plan to protect her. Suddenly, the communicator in Vela's hand flickered. It was weak but working. Vela's fingers trembled as she pressed a hidden button, a silent signal, a psychic distress call, sent out into the darkness of space. But she did not call her own people. She called the neutral watchers, the observers who watched Earth from afar. The watchers were a quiet and mysterious species. They rarely interfered, but they cared about balance and fairness in the galaxy. Vela hoped they would come. Back in the lab, Vela's eyes scanned the room, searching for any chance to escape. She noticed the door was often left unlocked for short moments. She waited for the right time. Meanwhile, Eli met with Clara and a small team in a hidden room nearby. They planned how to rescue Vela before the military could use her or her technology for war. "We have to act fast," Clara said. "If they learn too much, Vela will be in danger." Eli nodded. "I know a way through the old tunnels beneath the mountains. They are abandoned but still passable." The team prepared quietly, gathering supplies and weapons only for protection. They moved carefully through the snow-covered forest at night. At the lab, Vela waited for her moment. When a guard stepped away, she slipped through the door and into a narrow hallway. Her heart beat fast, but she moved quickly and silently. Outside, Eli and the team reached the secret tunnel entrance. They waited for Vela's signal. Suddenly, Vela appeared, running toward them. Relief flooded their faces. She was cold and weak, but free. "Come," Eli said, helping her. "We must move quickly." They ran through the dark tunnels, the cold stone walls closing in around them. The sounds of pursuit echoed behind them, soldiers searching. As they neared the tunnel's end, the strange psychic distress call reached the watchers. In the dark sky above Earth, a silent ship moved closer, an alien vessel that would change everything. Eli looked up through a crack in the rock. "Help is coming," he whispered. Vela smiled faintly. "Thank you, human Eli. You saved me." The Watcher's ship landed nearby, but it did not bring soldiers or weapons. Instead, it brought understanding. Eli and Vela stepped out of the tunnels, into the cold mountain night, ready to face whatever came next. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, they had hope. The alien ship was quiet as it hovered above the snow-covered forest. It was unlike the military vessels that Eli had seen before, sleek, smooth, and glowing softly. The Watchers had arrived. Inside the ship's cool interior, a group of tall, slender beings with pale skin and large eyes greeted Eli and Vela. They did not speak in words but sent thoughts directly to their minds, a gentle flow of images and feelings. "We have watched your world for many years," a voice came to Eli's mind. "Your people are unique. Your strength and kindness stand out." Eli blinked in surprise. "Thank you. But why help her? Why help us?" The Watcher's thoughts were calm. "Balance must be kept. We see hope in humanity. The exile's presence here is important. She has chosen freedom and peace." Vela stepped forward, her pale blue skin glowing softly. "I choose Earth. I want peace." The Watchers nodded. "We will help you, but you must be ready. There are those who still seek war and control." Eli looked at Vela. "We will face them together." Back on Earth, the military was confused by the sudden arrival of the Watchers. Their signals vanished and their presence was quiet but powerful. The scientists and soldiers had no choice but to stand down. For now, Eli, Vela, and Clara met with the Watchers in the ranger station. Plans were made to protect Vela and study the technology that could help Earth and her homeworld. Vela began to recover fully. She helped Eli on his ranger patrols, learning how humans live with the wild and cold. She was fascinated by the simple things, fire, warm clothes, and the way people could build shelters to survive the harsh winters. One day, as they walked through the snowy forest, Vela looked at Eli. "Your people are strong. Your heat, it is more than warmth. It is courage." Eli smiled. That's a good way to say it. Vela laughed softly. I want to learn more. Not just about Earth, but about being human. Eli nodded. And I want to learn about your world too. The Watchers watched silently, knowing this friendship was rare and important. Earth was changing, and with it, the future of many worlds. But danger was not gone. Unknown forces still moved in the shadows, watching the mountains and waiting for a chance. For now, though, there was warmth. Not just from fire or technology, but from two very different beings standing side by side, ready to protect each other and the freedom they had found. The mountains were quiet once again. Snow covered the ground like a soft white blanket. Inside, the small cabin near the ranger station, a warm fire crackled in the hearth. Vela sat by the window watching the stars twinkle in the clear night sky. For the first time in many months, she felt at peace. Eli entered the room carrying a small box. He smiled when he saw her calm face. You've come a long way, he said softly. How do you feel? Vela looked at him and smiled. Better, stronger. Eli set the box down and sat beside her. The Watchers helped us a lot. They left some technology behind. Geothermal heaters, energy systems. You should build a home, a place that feels safe. Vela nodded. I want to build it myself. A home in the cold warmed by the earth. Eli laughed. That sounds like a perfect plan. For weeks, Vela worked with Eli and Clara, using the Watchers' gifts and her own knowledge. She learned about Earth's plants, animals, and weather. Together they built a small house warmed by underground heat, safe from the harsh winter cold. Neighbors in the nearby town noticed the strange new home in the mountains. At first, they were curious and wary. But when they saw Vela and Eli helping, the community teaching children about the stars and sharing stories, fear turned to friendship. One evening, as Vela and Eli sat on the porch looking at the glowing lights of the town below, Vela spoke quietly. Earth is different from my homeworld, but here I am free. Eli smiled and took her hand. Freedom is the greatest gift. Suddenly, a soft light appeared in the sky. It was the Watcher's ship hovering silently above the mountains. Vela looked up with a smile. They watch over us. Eli nodded. They see what makes us strong. Vela stood and walked to the edge of the porch. She looked out at the snowy forest, feeling the cool wind on her face. This is my new home, she said firmly, a place of peace, hope, and warmth. Eli joined her, and together they looked at the stars. Above them, the Watcher's ship disappeared into the night, leaving Earth and Vela's story open to a future full of promise. And in the quiet, warmth of the mountain cabin, two friends from different worlds shared a simple truth. No matter where you come from, home is where kindness and courage live.